Ohio versus Stanley Ford, case number CR 2017-06-1953. Present in the courtroom is Mr. Ford, represented by his attorneys Mr. Gorman and Riley. On behalf of the state, our attorneys Laprinzi and D'Angelo. Again, for purposes of the record and the fact that the court has issued a standing order regarding COVID-19 precautions that the court has taken. The 12 jurors seated in the first 12 seats are all, well, first of all, everyone's wearing masks in the courtroom with two exceptions. But the first 12 jurors are seated in the jury box. They are all masked and wearing or having separators between them, as well as plexiglass between them and the well of the courtroom. There's also plexiglass separating the back of the courtroom from the front of the courtroom, and that is where the 5 alternates are housed. 4 of the 5 alternates are housed. Counsel is at all times wearing masks unless they are questioning a witness. Witnesses will enter the courtroom with a mask on. They will remove their mask when testifying. No witness will wear a mask when testifying. And then that witness stand will be disinfected between each witness. The attorneys, we have talked about this protocol prior to starting the trial, and I believe this was the agreed upon scenario that we felt was appropriate going forward with this case. Mr. Laprinzi?
Judge, we agree with the court's representations of everything that's happening and how it will be proceeding to this point and how you expect it to proceed in the future.
Mr. Gorman?
Everything you put on the record, Judge, is what's been happening, yes.
Thank you. And then, of course, Mr. Ford is currently wearing a white cotton mask. He has worn that throughout the trial, except for the proceedings where we were all socially distanced and able to remove our masks, as well as the fact that all attorneys and Mr. Ford and myself and the court reporter are vaccinated. So when we've all been together, he's not worn a mask, but going forward with trial, he's been wearing it since we started the trial phase of this case. And Mr. Ford, you understand, as the accused, you have the right to remove your mask and proceed without wearing a mask.
I do, Your Honor.
And you also have the right, if you chose to, you could wear a face shield instead of no mask.
I do, Your Honor.
And or you could wear the white cotton mask that you have chosen to wear.
I do, Your Honor.
And you choose to wear that mask through the trial?
I do, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ford. The court finds that although there are mask mandates issued by the Summit County Executive as well as an order by the Summit County Administrative Judge, this court is in compliance with those mandates and orders with the exceptions of what I've already outlined. And I find that those exceptions are reasonable. They also are to ensure that Mr. Ford receives a fair trial, that his constitutional rights are not superseded by those orders and mandates, and that his right to confront his accusers as well as his attorneys to effectively cross-examine witnesses is paramount to a fair trial, and therefore I've made those accommodations. Mr. Riley.
Good morning, may it please the court. Scott Riley, Joe Gorman on behalf of Stanley Ford, and we at this time review all prior motions, including but not limited to our motion for severance and our objection to the joinder of all these matters in a single trial.
Your objection is noted and your motion is noted and it's overruled based on my previous written findings.
And then, Judge, I think we wanted also to talk before the jury comes out about photos. We want to renew our objection to the crime scene photos and the, I guess, the testimony of the bodies and being brought out in the photographs of that. We believe that that is highly prejudicial. In fact, whatever probative value there is outweighs the prejudicial effect of that evidence.
At a previous hearing,
Yeah.
and what I'm saying, I think I got it. Yeah.
Prejudicial effect outweighs the probative value.
Thank you. At a previous hearing, I reviewed the actual photographs and that the state wanted to present. I think that there was in excess of 20. I limited those photographs. They then have included those, I believe, in a PowerPoint. Do you know, is that 105?
It's going to be which one are you referring to?
Well, the one with the crime scene with the photographs of the victims.
Of 693 folds?
Yes.
That's going to be 113.
Okay. I was provided prior to the start of testimony those flash drives that included those exhibits and those photographs. I verified that those photographs are the ones that I've previously ruled may be admitted or used throughout the trial, and verified that none of the ones I excluded were included in that thumbnail drive. So your objection is noted and overruled.
And I guess the last thing we have is, it's our understanding, there are going to be 3 firefighters testifying today, Lieutenant Horner, Lieutenant Isel, and Firefighter Sinopoli. We've got no written reports from any of those individuals from the fire department. We've been told by the prosecution what the essence of their testimony is going to be. And I guess when it comes to Lieutenant Horner, it's our understanding that his sole testimony is going to relate to extraction, bringing the bodies out of the house. It seems sort of duplicative. It doesn't seem relevant to the issues involved. And again, it's highly prejudicial.
Mr. LaPrenzi?
His testimony is going to be to go toward the fact that we have to prove, it's our burden of proving that people died in the fire. He's the one that recovered them. He found them. Following the fire, he went in and found the people in the house. You've seen the pictures. There's very little. We also have to identify the individuals because our indictments are specific to an individual. So we are going to have him identified. I brought this person out. There's no real pictures of each individual person. It's just a group, kind of a group photograph that you will approve. And he will testify as to who they brought him out. Then investigator Todd Webb will then testify to him identifying the individuals. Again, there's no pictures necessarily other than they label them in one photograph, a group photograph, A, B, C, D throughout, and the companion dog. And that's basically what he's going to be talking about. He'll be talking about other things too because he was there to shore up the house with these days. But that's the part that I think that Mr. Riley's out talking about, and I'm not sure when he's duplicative. I'm not sure who else will be talking about those things.
How many times are the same photographs going to be introduced?
Which same photographs?
The photographs of where the decedents were, how they were situated, how they were removed. From how many witnesses are we going to show the same pictures? I guess the question.
I don't know. I guess
That's what our objection is.
So Horner's definitely going to do that, right? He'll identify.
Not at the scene. Oh, Horner. I'm sorry. I thought you said Horner. No. Yes, Horner's going to identify.
What's Sinopoli going to testify about?
He's testifying about fire suppression and going next door to the neighbor's house.
And is it Isley? Is that the third one you're talking about? Isley?
Isel?
Isel?
E-I-S-E-L-E?
Yes.
Fire suppression, yeah.
Okay.
He's not.
So what's Webb and Nemeth? Just first to arrive?
Nemeth is the police officer who was first on scene.
All right. And what's Webb?
He's the Akron Fire Department investigator.
Okay.
And he's the one that actually, as they bring them out, he's the one that then.
Who's going to, so my recollection of the photos is in the house,
Yes.
there is a group of individuals, some of it hard to identify.
Correct.
Who's going to identify that photo of the one of that?
Horner.
Okay.
And Webb. Webb takes the picture from the window of Horner going through and recovering these bodies. Because as you know, it was somewhat of a, obviously a.
Let me pull that, pull 113 up.
Joe, how did you get that to that one screen? Oh, wait a minute.
While
No, you have to do
No, I got it. Okay.
While they're doing it, the other issue, Judge, is because we have no reports from any of these individuals, all 3 of them. The guy that goes next door to talk to Mr. Clay, who, if you recall, Judge, has become a potential suspect in this case.
Your suspect, yes.
Yes, potentially. We're still sifting through that because we got it at a late date. But,
Well, for the record though, the person that came forward, it's not somebody that came forward back in 2017 either.
well, I don't understand, Judge.
His ex-wife, the one who made these allegations about Mr.
No, but they had the information for about 60 days before they gave it to us. So and that's an estimate, but that's around right. So, but I think we got it, Judge, we got it at the end of July.
All right, who talked to Mr. Clay?
But one of those three that we don't have a report on, so what's his name?
Firefighter Sinopoli.
What we're concerned about, Judge, is the eliciting present sense impressions or excited utterances that we have no idea what we're going to hear.
And I can tell you that I am, after he is able to get Mr. Clegg from the residence, I am planning to elicit a statement, which I believe, and I don't know what the person will actually testify to, but in my discussions with Firefighter Sinopoli would be that he became upset when he saw the house was on fire and kept talking about how there was a family inside of it because of a truck or a car that was parked in front of the house.
And that's why, Judge, I believe, first of all, we're just learning of this. I think we learned of it last night, in fairness. But that is because this person is now a suspect. That's why the relevancy of it, and we're just learning it now.
Judge, first of all, we are not required in the discovery rules to disclose inculpatory evidence. We give them everything we have. If somebody makes a report, we give it to them. They have the witnesses' names and lists. They can talk to them just like we talk to them. We have gone out of our way to make sure they are aware of things that we aren't even requiring the rules to disclose. And maybe that courtesy has now become an obligation. But the fact is that those witnesses were disclosed very shortly after we were aware. They've even subpoenaed Mr. Clegg. I even told Mr. Clegg he had to be here for them. I can't help it that they haven't talked to them.
No, it's more about firefighters not me. So you know what?
No, I understand, but
I'm going to let them, your objection is going to be noted and overruled. But in the same breath, you get to cross them on why you didn't put that in writing or tell somebody about it.
and Judge, and Sinopoli has been a witness since the beginning of this case. So if they haven't asked him or talked to him, I'm not obligated to tell them everything every witness is going to say or do on the stand unless it's exculpatory. And I believe we've done that.
Well, Judge, I'll give you an example. Last week, Mr. Riley wanted to go out and talk to, who's the video guy? What's his name?
Brad Barkhurst?
Yeah, and he refused to do it unless the prosecutors were standing there. So we can say this if we don't have things in writing, but the truth is, with a lot of law enforcement people, they won't talk, even the medical examiners won't even talk to the defense attorneys unless the prosecutors are standing there, which defeats the purpose of what we're trying to do, Judge, in a lot of ways. They have the access and we don't, so that's why it's unfair.
Kind of like you have the access to Mr. Ford's wife and we don't. It's just the way the rules are set up and we follow them. And we accommodated you in every way we could. We went out so he could ask Mr. Barkhurst any questions he wanted. We would do that with any witness that you guys wanted us, that wanted us to be there. They have that choice just like your witnesses have that choice whether they talk to us or don't talk to us. Just like the Cleggs didn't want to talk to us. So when we found out about them, we went to interview them. They refused to talk to us.
So, with all due respect, Prosecutor Prenzi, I believe, Judge, that we have different roles and different obligations with those roles.
I understand that, and there's rules in place that are to be followed, and I don't see through this potential, I guess, what am I going to call this? What Mr. D'Angelo's proffered that he thinks firefighter Sinopoli may say is not in violation of those rules. So,
And we can talk to them ahead of time. I mean, the defense can,
what I think they're claiming is because they just found out about it last night, that because you shared that with them, or that they don't have reports, and that's going to be, something for you to explore in cross-examination.
I understand your.
So your objection's noted and overruled. All right, let me see these pictures.
All right, so you want to see the pictures? Let me see, hold on.
I want to see the pictures that
So-
you intend to have Webb and Horner identified.
All of them?
Well, no, regarding
The
those
bodies.
with the victims.
Got it, okay. So this one here is a shot from the bedroom door. Okay, so the bodies are in that picture, but you can't necessarily see
Right.
them.
I'm talking about the.
I understand, Judge, but I'm,
Okay.
in an overabundance of caution, I'm going to show you every picture that could potentially
Okay.
have a victim in
That's
it.
slide W, that's for,
Yes.
either one or both can testify to W. Let me I gotta get my sheet out. Okay. This is X.
And I guess, Judge, while we're going through this, I know in other slideshows, we've had issues where because of the number of slides, they're sometimes referred to slide 1 and sometimes referred to slide A. You just called it W, but I know Mr. LaPrenzi, when he does his
Well,
presentation.
W would be 23, am I right?
24 of 50.
So
Oh,
I
because
think,
It says it on the bottom of my screen, what number slide it
So
is.
24 and or W.
Yes.
So the next one is X, which I believe is 25.
Oh, I'm sorry, I moved to X, so slide, W is slide 23 of
Right,
50.
24
X is
is
24 of 50.
And this on the right-hand side are the bodies?
The bodies are to the right hand, or left-hand side of the photo, left.
See right here?
Put your cursor up.
She can't.
Oh, the
Because
cursor's not-
PowerPoint's up, you can't
Oh,
see it.
on the
Yeah,
right-
sometimes, here.
Okay, oh, I see. Okay.
And this is, so we're showing each side of the room,
I understand.
and then that's the other angle, the other victim.
So that's X, Y, and Z,
Yep,
right?
yep.
And who's planning on, both of them planning on testifying to all four of these?
This would most likely be Horner.
This last one?
Well, probably all of them.
All right.
Horner is going to be the majority of these
All
photographs.
right, I need to know which ones then you want Webb to testify to, or both of them that you plan on. Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah,
I ruled that you can show these. I ruled that you may admit them and that people can testify. I want to know how many times they're going to be testified to.
2 at the most.
I understand that, but I want to know which ones you plan on having to testify to.
I guess didn't have a plan other than, as the testimony went, use them as needed. And then this would be double A, or slide 27.
All right?
And this is 28. And then this slide here is the precursor to the identification
And
slide.
who's going to testify to that?
This one here, Webb took it. Horner is the one in the picture. He is, so what happens is that Horner goes in, Webb is standing at is out on a ladder on a window because the floor is afraid he's going to collapse. So Horner is inside recovering the bodies. They don't know how many are there. They're trying to figure it all out and untangle this mess, so to speak. And basically, they're trying to identify the bodies. So as they come out, they're trying to label them. Okay, here's victim A. Then we remove victim A. Here's victim B. So
Right.
It's a process, and so they're both going to probably be testifying about this. But as you can see, Judge, it's almost impossible to even see most of the victims. They've just got the arrows there. You can't even tell. And some of them are actually covered by other victims.
Next one.
That would be the last. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's the last one of that room. And then the last victim, the 14-year-old boy,
Right.
was in the stairwell, and so that would be. Let's see, this one. This is kind of a closer up, and then that's showing the hallway from the bedroom, and then that's looking down the steps, because then this is where he came from. This is what they believe is. So that's kind of, and these photos mostly are going to be Horner, because Webb was not actually in that part of it.
So AA is the one with the markings of victims A through,
CC,
I'm sorry.
or slide.
It's slide 29 CC.
W, X, Y, Z, AA, BB, DD, FF, and HH. You may use as you see fit.
Wait, I'm sorry, Judge.
W, X, Y, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28.
I'm sorry, I got it.
Sorry. Well, here's going to be super easy. All of those you can use as you see fit. CC is the only one you're going to have one person testify to, because there is a picture already that Webb will be able to testify that he took of. Horner may testify about how he labeled them, or whoever labeled them. I do not, we're not gonna, it's not gonna be up there for a significant amount of time.
They're not putting it there, but Horner, one of them puts a label ABC, and then the other one then puts a name to that. And a victim.
Who put the labels?
As Horner brings them out, this is victim A.
But who goes back and labels the slide?
They did that in the process of just trying to make it for presentation.
So Horner picks up the first person and they label it A.
Correct. Because as they bring them out, they have a makeshift morgue outside in the side yard. They have all the bags laying up, and so they're trying to keep straight because they don't know the significance of where they're found or how they're found and that kind of thing. And so basically, they're trying to record all this information. So they find the first victim, here's victim A, they take the victim out, get him out the window, down the steps, because they have a whole rig to just get him out of the house. And then he puts them in the bag, and then Webb then figures out who they are, how they are, that kind of stuff.
But Webb is the one who, no, Horner is the one who then takes them out and carries them out.
Correct. And I do not plan, first of all, I mean, you can't, in the one picture, you can't already see anybody.
I understand.
And then secondly, I don't plan on really spending a lot of time on it. Trust me, they understand this.
All right, I'm gonna, hold on. Okay, I'm going to preliminarily allow you to present those to both Horner and Webb, all of them. Your objection is noted. If it becomes what I believe cumbersome or overt and excessive use, you may renew your motion, and I will at that time make a further ruling. All right?
And Judge, my intention is probably to spend most time with Horner with the photographs so he can describe where they were because of the location, and then with Webb, more or less, this is the picture you took, here are the labels, then I can take the picture down and basically say, so with ABC labeled, then we were able to do that. And I don't plan on having it up there for,
All right.
other than with Horner as he goes through the testimony.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Judge.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
All right, bring the jury. Thank you. So all I'm going to ask you is you got to turn that back a little bit so I can see the witness, because once you put the thing up, even if you kind of, yeah. No, not that far, but just more of an angle so that, no, not little, no.
This way?
No, you could go that. That's too much. Okay, right there's good, because then I can see it, and I believe the jury can see it.
All rise, please. Suffolk County Court of Common Pleas is now in session. Now, Christian Judge is presiding.
Thank you. You may be seated. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. By a show of hands, please indicate that you, whether you have followed my previous admonitions that I've given you at all breaks and at the end of yesterday. Excellent. I see 17 hands. All right. You may call your next witness.
I was going to call Officer Nemeth to the stand.
Mr. Nemeth, if you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may be seated. Once you are seated, if you will remove your mask, keep your voice up, and then you can pull that microphone down into it. It's directional, so you got to speak into it, okay?
I'm sorry, I missed that first part.
I said once you're seated, you can remove your
Okay.
mask so
All
that
right,
we
thank
can
you.
hear you,
Good
and
deal.
then pull your mask, or your, that down and speak into it so we can hear your testimony. Thank you.
Fair enough.
You're testifying if I ask you questions about this map here next to you?
Yeah.
See this button here?
Mm-hmm.
It's a red dot. You can point to something.
Okay.
Sir, can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Joseph Nemeth, Nemeth.
Can you tell the jury where you're employed?
The Akron Police Department.
What do you do for them?
I am a police officer for the Akron Police Department.
How long have you been a police officer?
Close to 15 years.
And are you a duly appointed peace officer in the state of Ohio?
Yes.
What division of the Akron Police Department are you assigned to?
Right now I'm assigned to a patrol and I work the day shift hours.
Have you always been assigned to the patrol division?
Outside of a temp assignment, yes, I've been assigned to patrol.
Okay. Now, Officer Nemeth, I'd like to draw your attention to April 18th of May 15th of 2017. Do you recall that date?
Yes.
And were you working in your capacity as a police officer for the Akron Police Department on that date?
Yes, I was.
Were you driving a marked police cruiser and wearing a uniform much like the one you have on?
Yes.
Did you have a chance to respond to the area of Fultz Avenue on that date?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury why?
We responded to assist other officers already on scene with the house fire. Normally when we do that, we are there to control traffic flow for AFD while they work on the house fire or any structure fire.
Were you working with anyone?
I was working with Drew Campbell. He's no longer working with Akron Police Department.
Now, Officer Nemeth, what was the exact address of where the fire was occurring?
693 Fultz.
And is that located in what city, county, and state?
It's located in the city of Akron, Summit County, Ohio.
You see that map there next to you? I think it's labeled for identification purposes as State's Exhibit number 14. You see
Yeah.
that, sir?
Yes.
Do you recognize that map?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what it depicts?
Depicts where 693 Fultz is and the surrounding neighborhood houses.
Using that pointer there, can you show the jury on the map where it is you and Officer Campbell parked when you arrived on scene?
I believe we parked somewhere, in this general vicinity. I don't remember 100% sure, but it was right around here.
Okay.
This is where the house fire was.
All right, and you're pointing there to 693 Fultz?
Yes.
When you arrived on scene, tell the jury what you saw, what you observed.
When I got there, we observed AFD was already working on the house fire. Usually something like that, we start talking to neighbors to find out what happened or anything like that. I did speak with several residents in the neighborhood about if they saw or heard anything. A few people knew the kids or that there was a family there. I did get the names of several of the kids that lived at the house at 693 Fultz.
Okay. And can you tell the jury how it is that you obtained, who did you speak with that gave you the names of the children?
I can't pronounce her first. I can't remember how to pronounce her first name.
Okay.
Starts with a D.
Okay. And if I showed you your report, is there, could it refresh your recollection?
Yes. Yeah, I just don't want us to say her name wrong.
Okay. Would it be a Devana? Thank you, Mr.
Yes.
Devana Gary?
Yes.
And then you spoke to her mother, is that true?
Yes.
And is that a Tiffany Gary?
Yes.
Okay. And were they able to give you the names and ages of the people that live there?
Yes.
All right. And do you remember those names and ages?
I couldn't tell you. I know they were young. I couldn't tell you specifically each name, but it is in my paperwork. The names that they gave me.
And they were giving you the names of the people that were actually, that they believed lived there at the time?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And without going over specifics, one was a Jared Boggs. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And a Daisia Boggs,
Yes.
a Kyle Boggs,
Yes.
and then an Alivia Boggs.
Yes.
Okay. Were you able to identify who the adults were that lived there?
I was, one of the people I spoke with, they described a SUV that was parked in front of the house. If that car was there, that's one of the residents of 693 Fultz is a person that lives there who uses that vehicle. So I ran the vehicle's license plate on our MDB and I came up with, I believe it's a female's name that lived there. And then through further search through our system, I was able to find, through our FI database card, the male that possibly lived there as well.
And do you know their names off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. I'm
Okay.
pretty bad with names.
Hold on one second. Would your report refresh your recollection?
Yes.
H, just kind of use your,
Which one?
just your,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
just the. Thank you, Mr. Durant. Would Angela Boggs sound?
Yes.
Right, and then also a Dennis Huggins.
Yes.
After you were able to identify at least some of the parties that at the time people believed were inside of the house, what did you do?
I gave all that information to AFD, the arson investigators.
And did detectives from the police department later arrive?
Yes, so Sergeant Lickyville, he's now a lieutenant. When he arrived on scene, he asked us, well, patrol officers, to do a neighborhood canvass. Basically, going from house to house, up and down Height, Hillcrest, and down towards Manchester, knocking houses to speak with anybody that might have seen or heard anything throughout the night that might have been related to what happened at Fultz.
Any pertinent information you would have passed on?
Yes, correct.
I don't have any other questions, Joe.
Gentlemen, Mr. Foreman. Appreciate that. You can remove your mask.
Good morning, officer.
Good morning.
My name is Joe Gorman. This is Scott Riley. Together we represent Stanley Ford. Have a few questions for you, not many. And if you don't understand what I'm asking, just ask me to rephrase or repeat. Is that fair?
Fair enough.
I have your report. If you want to look at it, ask me. I'll show it to you before you answer. Fair enough?
Good deal.
Okay. The report you created, we would call an action taken. Is that fair?
Yes.
That would be a little more detailed than an incident report. Would you agree?
Correct.
All right, and you learn all these things in the police academy and you're on the job training and things of that nature, correct?
Yes.
And then a report of investigation, you're familiar with what that is?
Talking about ROI?
Yeah, an ROI.
Yes.
Report of investigation. That's the more detailed report of an entire investigation, correct?
Correct.
Kind of like the Bible, so to speak, of the investigation, correct?
Yes.
Usually done by the lead detective,
Usually, yes.
and all the important, pertinent information about who was talked to and what was done during the course of the investigation, that's all contained in the report of investigation. Fair enough?
Yes.
Okay. You went door to door to several houses in that neighborhood that you are looking at. And Judge, can you tell me the state's exhibit number?
14?
Thank you, Your Honor.
I can't see that. I just was listening.
Okay. And I apparently was not. But thank you, Judge. So state's exhibit 14 is that neighborhood where you did the canvass. Is that fair?
I mean, it doesn't depict the entire area.
Okay.
Kind of towards the bottom of the.
Here, let's
Is that this? Do you want me to do this whole thing? There's a street, I think this Fultz continues or right here. I think that's the street that I went down and talked to a bunch of other
All
people.
right, well, let me show you this then. State's exhibit 13 as opposed to 14. Can you take a look at state's exhibit 13, and if you can, describe what you're looking at for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Yeah, it's just a expanded view of, actually looks like you're going south, I believe.
Does that help you in showing us where your canvas would have been?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay, just kind of give us with the pointer, just kind of go over the area in general. I'm not holding it to the exact thing, I just want to know around where you went.
Like, I believe I went down Fultz here, I remember walking up and down the street.
Okay,
And the people down here, I believe, what's the Manchester? I think Manchester is down, would be like down in this area, off the map.
Did I give you a bad? No, okay. The fire's up here on height, right?
Yeah. The fire's up there, but Lieutenant Wiki now, sergeant at the time, asked us to do a neighborhood canvass, so I pretty much just went down Fultz.
Okay, because Fultz is up here, and it looks like it becomes height, but then it's Fultz again down here, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense to me. So Would you agree with me, and have you had a chance to review your action taken?
Yes,
Okay. Would you agree with me that on some of the houses you went to, you knocked on doors, people didn't even know what was happening?
yes,
They slept through it.
correct,
Is that fair?
yes,
Some of them said, I stayed to myself, I didn't even know what was going on, I can't give you any information.
yes.
Okay. Officer, thank you for
Maybe one day.
He's promoted to. Mr. D'Angelo?
We have no other questions.
You're excused, officer. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you. Do I need to wipe this down or?
No, we'll handle it. Thank you so much. Appreciate the offer, though. Your next witness?
Will you call Lieutenant Warner?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Joe, would you grab?
Yeah, sure.
And maybe we should give a point or two. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay? And then will you make sure you get the point or two for me, please?
Here's your marker.
Thank you so much. All right, and then Lieutenant, once you're seated, if you will remove your mask, you can adjust the microphone and then make sure you speak directly into the microphone so we can hear your testimony. And then Mr. LaPrinzi, the microphone yesterday at your stand, I had them moved down so that the dispatcher could hear the 911 call. If you'll put it up directionally so that, I had a hard time hearing Mr. Gordon. You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, sir. If you would introduce yourself to the jury by telling them your full name and spell your last name for the court.
My name is William Horner. Last name is Horner, and I'm a lieutenant on the Akron Fire Department.
And how long have you been with the Akron Fire Department?
It'll be 18 years this December.
And prior to that, did you have any fire or law enforcement experience?
No, not before that, no.
All right. And in order to become a fireman for the Akron Fire Department, we've had some prior testimony about that, but did you go through all the normal training that's required?
Yes, through the city of Akron, yes.
All right. And are you a certified fireman for the state of Ohio?
I am.
And what did you have to do to get that certification?
Upon getting hired by the city of Akron, it goes through the academy, which is state certified academy. At the end of the 12-week program, then you take the state test on a passing score, among other physical things that you have to do, skill-based tests. Once you get through that, then you're certified as a state fireman.
All right. And once you became certified and hired with the Akron Fire Department, what were your job duties at that point in time?
I was also a paramedic when I got hired. So when you work for the city of Akron, you are a paramedic and a firefighter. So your day-to-day calls, whether it's EMS, fire-related stuff, extinguishing fires, rescue operations at a fire, ventilation, throwing ladders, pulling hose lines. I mean, pretty much all the stuff that the city firefighter did.
Okay. And you said you're currently a lieutenant. How long have you been a lieutenant?
I was promoted to lieutenant in 2018. So at the time of this incident, I was not a lieutenant, but I've become a lieutenant since.
And what would your rank have been at that point?
Firefighter.
All right. So it doesn't go firefighter, sergeant, lieutenant, does
No.
it? It just goes firefighter, lieutenant.
Yes,
All
correct.
right. So you've been a lieutenant recently, but at the time you were a firefighter.
Correct.
So let me direct at that time, talking about May 15th of 2017, were you assigned to any particular apparatus?
In May of 17, I was assigned to Engine 4 on the A shift, at Station 4.
And what shift would that be?
A shift.
Strike that. Your shifts last how long?
24 hours, so we start at 7:30 in the morning to 7:30 in the morning the next day.
All right. There was testimony previously that the fire at 693 had started during the middle of the night.
Correct.
Were you there for the initial suppression of the fire?
No,
All right. So you would have come on at 7:30 that morning.
correct.
At the point you got there to work, you were then dispatched to the scene?
Yes, 693 volts.
And at that point in time, approximately when would you have gotten there?
Most of us get to work before 7:30, so it would have been pretty close to 7:30 to get the C shift off on time, or as close to getting them off on time.
All right. So you basically did a shift change right there at the scene.
Correct.
And at that scene, at the time you got there, somewhere around 7:30, what was the status of the fire at that house?
For the most part, the house had been extinguished, but it was still smoldering. There were still some hot spots for us to hit, so that was some of our initial instructions when we got there, because there were still spots that were burning, and the house was pretty heavily damaged, so there were some things that were going to have to happen, because on top of us still having to put out any hot spots, places that were still burning, we were to look for and find the victims that were believed to be in the house.
Okay. And Judge, trying to, and this is not. when I
What do you
pushed- Well,
For annotation purposes?
yeah, I know, I don't have control somehow when I'm pushing the button, it's not giving me to be able to switch to the laptop. Oh, how'd you do that?
You press the screen.
So they have a button, and
No,
then
it's a
you don't push
touch-
the button, you
no,
push the
it's
screen,
a
okay.
touch.
Clarity.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And I hit the annotate button, so you should be able to go in there. Hold on. Maybe he has to hit it from back there. See the annotate button on the left side of this? It's a button, not the touch screen, Mr. Quincy. Underneath the main menu screen, on your black, this little black box right here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking to
On
Mr.
this black
D'Angelo.
box, behind your laptop,
Yes.
hit the annotate button. Okay. Mr. D'Angelo handled it.
Yeah. I'm continually trying to make Mr. Gorman feel technologically adequate.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Showing you, and Joe, what number are we on here? 113?
113.
I'm showing you what we have previously marked as states 113, which is a PowerPoint which contains several slides and photographs, which I want to go through with you, okay? So this first slide, which is slide 1 of 50, it shows a title screen. This is for the record more than for you. It indicates 693 Fulton, Akron, Ohio, Summit County, Akron Fire Department, May 15, 2017. So you've already testified on May 15th, 2017, you were called to that fire around 7:30 in the morning. Is that true?
Yes.
All right. And that was 693 Fulton. And what city, county, and state was that in?
Akron, Ohio, Summit County.
Okay. Showing you slide number 2 or letter B, do you recognize this?
Yes.
And what is that?
That's basically Fulton Street, and then that is the address, or that is the structure that was on fire. It's right in the bend of the road there.
All right. And essentially, the slide that I'm showing you is similar to the map that's displayed on the easel that you just pointed to with the indicator, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. When you arrived on scene, I'm now showing you slide C, slide C, which just says exterior, title screen saying exterior of 693 Fulton, correct?
Yes.
All right, so now I'm going to show you slide number 4 of 50, or letter D. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
And what is this?
This would be the front of the house, or the A side of the structure, as we refer to it.
Now, obviously, as you've gotten there, we can see it's light in the background, correct?
Yeah, this is a little before we got there. It's not quite 7:30 yet,
Okay.
but yes, that is the front of the house.
All right, and clearly we can see the ladders and things of that nature that are used by your department, correct? All right, and we actually see on the left lower corner, what is that water, or is that a sunshine right here?
Kind of tough. Can I move this screen a little bit
Oh, yeah.
towards me?
Yeah, it's on a hinge.
Okay. That looks like it's water right there, because I don't think there's enough sunlight to hit that, but I believe there's probably water. Because again, there was a bunch of different areas that were still smoldering, as you can see. Some of that's steam, but some of that is still smoke from areas that are still burning.
All right. And then showing you slide 5 of 50 and letter E. And this would have been even earlier than your arrival. Is that fair?
Yeah, 'cause it still looks to be pretty dark.
All right. But even at this point, it seems or appears that the flames have been subsided and it's smoldering at this point.
Yeah, for the most part. Again, there's going to be little pockets with the insulation and all the different stuff that's in your house that can burn. It's still smoking, but for the most part, the bulk of the fire would have been knocked down, correct?
All right. And now I'm going to show you slide 7 of 50, which is letter G. Do you recognize that?
Mm-hmm. So,
And
front of
what
the
is
house, sorry.
All right. Front of the house?
Front of the house, I'm sorry.
All right. Then just in case we've talked about Alpha, is it Alpha?
It's Alpha, so the street side of the house that your address is on is the A side or Alpha side, going clockwise. This side would be B side, the back side would be C side, and then the right side of the house would be D or Delta.
All right, and I think the jury's already been explained that a little bit too, so, and just letting you know you can use those
Okay,
terms.
right.
Okay. So, so this is the A side of the house, and would this approximate what it looked like when you were there at that time?
Actually, there's a lot of stuff that's been removed, a lot of debris, because if you go to one of the previous slides that you showed, there was still quite a bit of stuff
Okay.
on the porch. And this looks to be later in the day. I can't really tell by this picture if we've even started shoring up yet to get the victims out, but this is probably significantly after we got there, if that makes sense. This is later on in the early afternoon, I guess, probably before we remove the victims.
Okay. But as far as the house portion goes, I know like on the ground and stuff, it looks like the porch may have been cleared, but the house, this is basically
Sure.
the way it ended up after the fire was suppressed.
Correct.
Okay. When you get to the when you arrived at this fire, were you then informed through your company or whoever was there the prior shift that there were potential victims in this case?
Yes.
And how many, if you know, victims were you told that you needed to search for?
Initially, they had told us 8 because they weren't sure about the one daughter that had been away at work. So the neighbors had informed the fire companies, excuse me, on scene that there were potentially 8 people in the house, and that other than seeing a body part hanging through the ceiling from the second floor to the first floor, they were not sure where else the other victims were.
All right, so let's talk about that. When you got to this scene, this house was pretty badly damaged, so to speak.
Correct.
Is there safety concerns for the firemen at that point?
Absolutely. So when we initially got on scene, other than the report of trying to locate the potentially 8 victims, we were not to enter on the first floor because it was heavily damaged. We could not go into the second floor windows because it was so heavily damaged. The ceiling or the floor of the second floor was hanging down a couple of feet. So when you peered in through the front door, you could actually see some of the floor joists or support members that were hanging down in front of the door.
All right.
So we could not enter until there was proper shoring or securing of that structure to prevent harming us.
All right, and is that where, when you said you could see part of the floor coming down, you said there was a body part
Correct.
that was recognized. And what was an arm or leg?
It looked to be an arm, it ended up being an arm.
So you said about the support and shoring up. Do you guys have a team that does that?
Yes, we do. Station 7 houses our TROT team, our Tactical Rescue Operations team. So upon, I'm not sure what time in the morning that they told them, but they knew with us searching for victims and having to go in there, that they were going to have to be called out to support that damaged part of the floor so we could go in there and adequately search and remove the victims. So I don't know what time they started them, but I do know they were called for to shore up the floor.
Okay. Just give me a moment. I'm trying to get this mouse to work here. I'm going to show you slide 38, letter double L. What are we looking at here?
Well, this is the front door, so we would be standing on the porch taking a picture through the front door. And what you see with those pieces of wood that's not burned, those were the shoring devices that they put in to keep the floor from sagging any more than it had already dropped down. You can see how significant of a drop it had been. So they're not, when they go in to do this, they're not trying to raise it back up to where it was. They're just trying to keep it in place so we can do what we need to do to get the victims out.
All right. So can you see the mouse on the screen there?
I can.
So with this, what you were describing, is this the floor here?
Yeah, so what you're right there, if you go up a little bit, that is a floor joist. So that's what supports the weight of your house. So those run about 14 to 16 inches apart, and that was burned through and damaged and hanging down. So those were visible through the front door. So what they did is they went back through and put those shoring on those members to hold them in place.
All right. So this is what was added by the trot team just to keep the floor up from caving in.
Correct.
All right. Even having done that, was it safe for you and your team to be able to go onto the second floor for your recovery efforts or your search efforts?
Still no. So what ended up happening was that room was so heavily damaged, and then what would be the Bravo Charlie bedroom of the kids was so heavily damaged, the floor was burned through completely. So there was a bathroom on the Charlie Delta corner, and on the Charlie side wall, that wall had not been breached. So what we ended up doing was we cut a hole in between the studs, and then we took our roof ladders and we laid them down across the floor, two of them I believe, to get to the front room here on the second floor. And then the trot team cut us pieces of plywood, and it basically served as scaffolding. So we laid the plywood down on the ladder, used the part of the house that was still secure, leaned up against that, and then that's how we walked back and forth. But we had to stay on those ladders for the most part because of how unstable that floor was.
All right. So basically you had like a catwalk rigged
Yes.
in the second floor so that you could safely be up there.
Correct.
All right. How many people actually ended up going to the second floor?
It was myself, Lieutenant Barker, and Lieutenant Mills in the front room, and Lieutenant Todd Webb was standing on the front porch taking pictures for evidence purposes, and then we had basically formed a line. So we were in that front room, and then I believe there was 2 or 3 more guys in that bathroom, and then we were handing them out to other guys on the back porch, on the roof of that back porch, to get the victims down. So we tried to limit it as much as possible because of the added weight would just add more stress to those members.
All right. And let me just see, showing you now slide 17 or Q out of 50. Do you recognize this photo?
I do. So this is going to be a little bit deceiving. So what you're looking at here, where that garage door is actually the basement. So above that would be the first floor, and then where those, you can kind of see them, the 2 firemen standing up on the roof, that is where we were bringing the victims out. We cut a hole in that wall, which is right in front of them, and then they would carry the victims down the ladder into the back.
And this is the ladder here?
Correct.
Okay. So this entire operation, not only did you have your victims, but was your safety an issue during this period of time?
It was. We still had to be careful, even though we took every precaution necessary. There was such a large amount of damage, we still had to be very cognizant of where we were stepping, how we were moving them, and those kind of things.
All right. You had said that Sergeant Webb, or Lieutenant Webb, was on the porch, he was taking photographs. Was he on a ladder, or, I mean, how was he taking photographs?
Yeah, so that one picture you showed me where I had the ladder up in the front porch,
Yes.
that I believe is the ladder he was standing on.
All right, and that let's see, going back here, is this the one
Yeah.
you're talking about? Or
Yes.
one of the ones, this is slide 7 or G.
Because in the one photo, the ladder was in between the windows,
Yes.
but I do believe that was the window he was taking most of the pictures from.
Okay. So once you were upstairs, and I'm going to show you slide 21, or U, do you recognize this? If not, it's okay.
Actually, I'm trying to see where that is.
That's okay. Let me use a
I do
different-
not.
That's okay. So let me, so slide 19 of 50 is a title slide. It's also letter S, interior of 693 full, second floor, okay? So I'm going to show you now slide 20. Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you recognize that?
So this is where, this is where we cut into that bathroom, and then that's where our ladder was. And then below that window, you can see through the front of the house, because that's where there was that much damage and it started to drop down.
Okay, and so where you're at now, what, is there a doorway here?
That's a doorway right in front of you. So
Okay, right
that-
here. Oops.
I just didn't recognize it because I couldn't see the bottom. But this looks to be the bathroom doorway. And if I remember correctly, there are stairs to the left of this ladder on the other side of that doorway that go downstairs.
All right, and just so we're clear, what side of the house is this window on?
The window that we're looking at,
The one in the middle of the picture?
that's going to be the A side. That's the front of the house.
All right, and so where would the bedroom be in relation to this photograph?
So the bedroom is where that window is.
Okay,
So where the victims were found.
all right, so this is the bedroom window in the front of the house.
Correct.
And this is the ladder that goes to the back of the house where everybody was being taken out.
Correct.
All right. So showing you now slide 22 or letter V. This is also a title screen, second floor front bedroom. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. So this next photograph here, slide 23 or W. Do you recognize this?
Yes, that's the front bedroom.
All right. And this is the doorway to that bedroom.
This is the doorway to the bedroom, and you can see the front of the house, the front yard,
All right.
because that's where the floor dropped down.
And let me see if I can get the cursor to work here. All right, so on here, this is that front window we were just looking at in the other slide, correct?
Correct.
And you can see through this opening here, correct?
Correct.
And where is the floor in this photograph?
So, Lieutenant, on the right-hand corner of your screen, touch it. Up top on the right-hand corner. There you go. There you go. See that?
Touch this?
Yep. I think you have to get hands. I think I can.
Hit me, that's on the side.
No, I'll do it again. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, try it again. The other touch.
Don't be afraid.
I won't break it.
No, you're not. Gotta get cleaned off first.
Well,
We end up with a box, so now I'm trying to get rid of that box.
all right, maybe I can just use this pointer here, see the pointer?
Yeah.
All right, so tell me where is the floor supposed to be?
The floor is supposed to be where that straight line is. Go down right there. See, that's where the floor is supposed to be attached.
Right here.
Correct.
And so the reason we see this is this floor is dropped.
Correct.
All right. And all this debris that's on the floor, can you tell or could you tell where that came from? Was that something that seemed to be there already, or is that something as a result of the fire or the fire suppression?
Well, the ceiling is still intact. From best I can tell, the front wall is still intact. So all of this right here would have been what looks to be the contents of the bedroom.
All right. And of course, that during the fire suppression of that, there's lots of water and things that are used, and so it may not be in the condition it was at the time prior to the fire. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm sure the water's gonna cause some damage, sure.
All right, showing you slide 24 or letter X, what are we looking at here?
So this looks to be when you're standing in the doorway of that bedroom that we were just looking through. So that would be to the right, so that would be the AB corner of the house. And then you can see a bed frame, and you can see how much the floor has sagged down right here underneath that window. So that's how much it's dropped down. You can actually see a victim.
Okay.
So this window here is the one we had,
Been looking at?
No, that's the one next to it.
all right, so there's a window over here.
Correct.
And this is where you're talking about the floor?
Yeah, the floor should be right there where that open space is. That's where the floor is supposed to attach.
Okay. And obviously you can see the street and the fire engine here.
Correct.
Now in this photograph, as you can see, it's a lot of stuff going on in this room, correct?
Correct.
And at this point in time, this is the first time we can actually see a victim in this photograph, fair?
Correct.
All right, and that would be in this area down here?
Yes.
All right. Showing you now slide, oops, I'm sorry. 25 of 50, now what are we looking at here?
Again, standing in that doorway, facing more of the middle of the room, you can see that victim right here in the middle of the screen. But then you can start to see a couple other victims up kind of underneath that first window we were looking up towards the corner here. Nope, right there. Go down. Right in there, there's a victim right there. And then there's appears to be, we weren't sure at the time, it ended up being there's a small child underneath that victim right in the middle. Yes, correct. That's their face.
And in this here, is this, what is this? Is this part of the floor?
Well, there was a dresser there, and there was some clothes and stuff. So there was some other things that were up against that wall, and I can't remember if it was like right on top of, because that ended up being Mom right there. I can't remember if it was right on top of her, but there were some other items in the room too that we had to kind of work around to get the victims out.
All right, and this is Mom here.
That's Dad. Mom is the one right there.
Right here,
Yeah.
okay. So we're talking, Angela, well, you didn't know the names, did you?
No.
Fair? Okay.
Nope.
All right. So showing you slide 26 of 50, do you recognize this?
Yes, that is, you can't really see all of the victim, but that appears to be a leg of the victim right there, which ended up being Mom right there.
All right. And slide 27,
Just a different, basically that's from the front of the house.
okay. So now we're looking back through the window.
Not the window, they're probably standing on the front porch, but the floor's dropped down so much, they just took the picture right there.
I see. And so this is Mom and this is
I think that's
father.
yeah, the father said.
All right. Slide 28, and this is similar but an overview.
Yes, so that, I'm guessing this is where Lieutenant Todd Webb, was taking a picture through that first window on the right, and kind of coming the opposite direction instead of looking from the doorway from the window. So you can see Mom on the right-hand side, you can see Dad, but again, there's a lot of debris, so we really weren't sure, other than seeing those three victims, where everybody else was laying.
So let's talk a moment now. So this is how it appeared when you showed up and began your search and recovery.
Correct.
All right. At this point in time, you still don't know how many people are there, right?
Correct.
And that's because of the debris and everything else around. Is that fair?
Correct.
All right. So at some point in time, obviously it's important to make sure you recover everyone, fair? What process did you go through in order to count or label or identify the individuals that were taken out?
Well, initially,
I'm sorry.
when we had first,
Hold on a second.
I'm sorry.
I minimized this here. I didn't realize it was still here. So hold on a second. Let's see this. Okay. All right, so tell us about the process that you used to recover, remove, and identify the individuals that were in that house.
Well, initially when we arrived on scene, like I told you that there was potentially 8 victims, but other than the one body part hanging through the ceiling, we weren't sure how many were in there. So because the first 2 floors were heavily damaged, they actually sent us up to the 3rd floor first, because we weren't sure if they were trying to seek, refuge and trying to hide it. We weren't sure. So went up there, started looking around, didn't see anybody on the 1st floor, but then we saw what ended up being the teenage son on the attic stairs going to them. That was, other than the arm hanging through the ceiling, that was the first victim that we saw. So we cleared the 3rd floor because it was safe to do so. So we were up there moving around, there wasn't much fire damage, so we looked up there and concluded there was no other victims up there.
And what was that 3rd floor? Was it?
It was a bedroom. It appeared to be the teen's bedroom, the
All
teen
right.
son's bedroom.
Was it an attic that was used as a bedroom type of situation?
It was a finished attic. So a lot of those older homes, the attics are finished, and then either they use them for storage. A lot of times they're utilized for bedrooms.
All right, and so you came through the attic, or the 3rd floor bedroom, and when you come down those steps is where you find...
We actually didn't come down the stairs because they were pretty heavily damaged,
Okay.
unstable underneath. But what we did do is we thought we saw his leg or his shoe. So looking down the stairs, we kind of brushed him off with one of our tools and then saw him laying there. So other than the first victim that we saw on the 2nd floor, he would have been the next one that we had found. And then after that, after we cleared the 3rd floor, is when we kind of switched our efforts to trying to find everybody that we could on the 2nd floor.
All right. And if I could have a moment, Judge, I'm just trying to make sure I get the right slides. Okay.
Sure. And in between, instead of minimizing, you could just go back to the title screen if you wanted to.
Well, I thought I could minimize it and it would just, but it didn't do that. So. Joe, why isn't this not switching for me? Maybe it's not coming up. Judge, I think maybe if you take the annotate off, does that do it? There we go. Nope.
Can you see them?
Yeah. We'll just do it for current slides.
Okay.
It's not switching.
So you figure it out on yourself.
Oh, you blocked it out.
Yeah, I just disabled the monitor source.
Well, the problem, Judge, is on the screen here, it's working, and it was not projecting there, it was on here.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I think we're back on track. I think maybe with the annotation thing, it changes things a little bit. So,
Don't minimize it. I'll just, and disable the courtroom monitors when it needs to.
okay, thank you, Judge, I appreciate that. Lieutenant, if you could tell us if you recognize this, photograph, which is slide 36 or letter double J.
Okay, this would be the third floor bedroom. And the viewpoint you're looking at from right now, I believe, is where we came in that window to search around in there.
You came in a
The
window
window
behind you?
behind us, yeah.
Okay. And then from that room, from that bedroom, what are we looking at here?
These are the stairs, if you can kind of see right below. I'm not sure if those are my feet or not, but right below whoever's feet those are, how the stairs are damaged right there. And at the bottom of the stairs is where the victim is laying.
All right, and so I'm going to show you slide, and by the way, that was slide 34 double H, and now I'm going to show you slide 35 double I. And so is this where you're looking at the bottom, closer up at
Yes.
the bottom of the steps?
Correct.
And right in this area, and right in this area here, is this the young man?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to show you slide number 31 of 50 double E. This photograph here is, it's the same stairwell,
Correct.
but from the downstairs level.
But from the second floor bedroom where the other victims were.
All right. And so, I know it's hard to see here, but was this the green here, is that his shirt?
Yes.
And would these be his legs bent?
Yes.
Okay. So as you, and I'm just going to go to a different screen here just for the moment. So as you went through and tried to recover the individuals, were they, who did the actual physical recovery?
In the front floor bedroom, I'm sorry, the front bedroom of the second floor, it was Lieutenant Mills, Lieutenant Barker, and myself. And then we lifted them up. Lieutenant Todd Webb took his photos, and then we handed them back down that line of guys to get them outside.
All right, and he took the photos from the window?
The window,
On the ladder, okay. And then did you, when you pull those people up, you didn't know who they were, right? So did you label them in some way just to keep straight?
We did not label them, but Lieutenant Webb, I believe, as we lifted them up, so I think the first victim we removed was victim A, and then the second was victim B, and then so on and so forth. And then that's how he labeled them, and then after that, they were labeled by name.
And that's just, I'm sorry, and that's just to keep a record of how things happen in case it becomes important later.
Sure.
All right. And so I'm going to show you then, first of all, going back to slide 28 double B, this is the photograph that we see of I believe you said this was the mother and the father, and then I'm going to go to slide 29 or double C. As you can see, it looks like similar, very similar picture, but it's labeled. Is that fair?
Yes.
And this, there's a person here up on top of the screen. Oh, I'm sorry. The person on top of the screen, who do you believe that to be?
It's either myself or Lieutenant Mills, but we talked about. I think that's me because there were three of us in there.
All right. Now, I noticed when you came in today, your one arm has lots of tattoos on it, but in the picture, there's no tattoos on this arm.
I didn't have any of the tattoos at the time.
Okay. So that doesn't mean it's not you. It just
Right.
Okay. All right. So as we did this, and we'll kind of go through this quickly. Here you have labeled victim A, and was that do you believe the first person to be brought out?
It's difficult to see here, but what we ended up doing was, you can't really tell from this angle, but she had an infant that she appeared to be, or a very small child that she appeared to be holding, and then when she fell, the baby was next to her, so that was actually, I believe, the first victim we took out, and then so on and so forth.
All right.
It's just difficult to see in this picture.
Yes. Okay. And I'm just going to go to this slide here just to get off that screen. Can you go through, and I'm going to use pictures now, they've kind of seen what the room looks like,
Okay.
they've seen the labeling of the individuals. How many people did you actually find?
7.
All right. And were there any pets or animals?
Again, in that picture, it's difficult to see. There was a family dog that was next to, on basically the mom's left side, and then the small child was kind of right by her. So there was a family dog there. It's labeled, but again, it's difficult to see. Once we started moving some of the debris around, it was easier to identify. But yeah, the family pet, the mom, the baby, and then the dad and the...
Okay, and you're talking about here, it says labeled family pet. And,
Yeah, it's like right in that area right
and although you can't see it necessarily in the picture, you're telling us that the family pet is there. What kind of animal did you say it was?
It was a dog.
A dog, okay. Thank you. So tell us, you said you believe that the first person you took out was the child, the baby?
Yeah, because again, once we started moving some stuff around, because there's a lot of debris there, so we started moving some of the drywall, some of the clothing. There was a dresser, there was some blankets and stuff, and then the easiest order to remove them in regards to, because the floor was still unstable, and the adult victims are a lot more difficult to move. That was going to take multiple people lifting them up. So we tried to do it as easy as possible to get the victims out as best as we could.
All right. Fair to say it's not a pleasant process?
No, it was not pleasant at all.
So where did you find, can you tell us where you found each individual? Because I know in the pictures you can't tell. So you said the baby was with the mother.
Correct.
All right. And then who else did you find? And I know you don't necessarily know the names, but...
Sure. Like I said, it appeared the mom was holding the infant, and then we saw the teenage son in the stairwell. So there's those 3, and then the family pet. What you couldn't really see, we saw the face of the one child kind of underneath Dad's chest, but then there was 2 other small children that were underneath him as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you found them once you removed Dad?
Yes, because you could not see them at all until we started moving Dad.
All right. And then once they were removed and taken down the ladder outside, ultimately it was Lieutenant Webb then trying to identify each individual that was brought out.
Yeah, I believe so.
Lieutenant Warner, several pictures that I've showed you today, do they accurately represent the scene as you saw it that day on May 15, 2017?
Yeah, they're accurate.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Gorman?
Lieutenant, we don't have any questions for you, thank you.
All right, Lieutenant, thank you for your testimony. You're excused. You may call your next witness.
We would call Lieutenant Webb. And Judge, if you could, I'm going to just try and set this screen up again. If you could just turn it.
Oh, sure. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat. Once you're seated, you may remove your mask. Speak into the microphone, please, and keep your voice up. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. If you would introduce yourself to the jury, tell them your full name and then spell your last name for the court.
Good morning. My name is Todd Webb, Toddwebb.
And sir, how are you employed?
I'm employed with the City of Akron Fire Department.
How long have you been with them?
32 years.
And you're getting close to retirement?
Yes, sir, I am.
I can tell you seem happy.
Yes.
Prior to being with the Akron Fire Department, did you have any prior law enforcement or EMT or firefighting experience?
No, sir.
And so you, at that point in time, went through training?
Yes.
And could you just give the jury, and we've heard it from other firefighters, the type of training you go through, can you just give us a very brief summary of your background training experience?
Went through the Akron Fire Department Fire Academy, 240 hours. Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2 training, along with being an EMT training and also paramedic training at St. Thomas Summa Hospital.
All right. And you ultimately were a fire investigator too, correct?
Yes, sir.
And in order to be a fire investigator, did you have to be OPATA certified?
Yes, sir.
And so after all your training, were you OPATA certified and also certified as a firefighter for the state of Ohio?
Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming you maintain those certifications to this day?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I actually resigned from the police department, so I'm on my way to retirement. So.
Oh, okay.
I gave those
So
credentials.
you're downsizing?
Yes.
Okay. So let me direct your attention. First of all, how long were you a fire investigator?
22 years.
All right. And during that period of time, if you know, and you can break it down by a total number or how many per month, week, however you want to do it or quantify it, approximately how many fires did you investigate to determine whether it was intentionally or accidentally set?
I don't have an accurate count as to how many, but over the years, it had to be thousands,
Okay.
or if not hundreds of.
All right. Numerous.
Numerous.
Okay.
Numerous fires.
And did you have specific training regarding fire investigation?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We can stipulate those qualifications.
Well, I'm done now, thank you, though. Sir, I want to direct your attention to May 15, 2017. Did you have the occasion to be involved in the investigation of a house fire?
Yes, I have.
And where was that fire located?
On Fultz Avenue.
And Judge, if I could have this. So I'm showing you State's Exhibit 113. This is slide 1A of that presentation. And this is the title screen, which has the address, I think you said 693 Fultz. I'm going to show you now slide number 2. Do you recognize this?
Yes, that's an aerial map of the neighborhood.
All right. And you see it says 693 Fultz. It's labeled with a square and a red marker.
Yes.
And is that accurate represent where the fire was that you investigated?
Yes, it does.
All right. Do you know or recall at what point in time you would have arrived at the scene?
Looking back at my report, it was I got a phone call from the other investigator who was already on scene, and I arrived right around 4:20 a.m.
And as an investigator, we've heard testimony from the firefighters that, they have A, B, C shift and then 7:30 to 7:30, and then, on a day off 2 days. How does it work if you're an investigator? Do you do the same type shifts?
Well, at that particular time, I was bureau manager of the fire investigation unit.
Okay.
So I was on D shift. So I worked 4 10-hour days.
All right. And so you would, what time does your day start? Or
7 a.m.
All right, so you would work 7 to what, 5?
7 to 5.
All right. So you would have been working that day?
Yes.
And you go to the scene, and when you get there, what's the scene like when you?
It was an active fire scene at that time. I was apprised of the situation by the investigator who called me, and also the incident commander.
All right. And who was the investigator that called you, if you recall?
His name was Investigator Andy Hoke.
And when you arrived, were you aware that there were potential victims in this situation?
He advised me on the phone call that there were multiple victims.
All right. As an investigator in this case, when you got to the scene, at some point in time, maybe not when you first arrived, but at some point in time, do you have the opportunity to assess the scene to determine whether you think, make an initial impression as to whether this is an accidental or an intentional fire?
After you go through certain processes of ruling out if it's an accidental fire, you start looking toward other things.
All right. And when you arrived, well, first of all, before you arrived, when you got that call from Investigator Hope, he gave you the address, I'm assuming, to go to?
Yes, he did.
And when he gave you that address, did that raise any interest in you?
Yes, it did.
And why was that?
Well, first of all, I had prior knowledge of the first fire that had happened at 714.
Okay.
Excuse me, not 719, I believe.
719?
719.
Okay.
I had prior knowledge of that fire and the investigation. So when I heard faults and fatalities, it instantly, it was like a red flag almost. It jumped off of me. I said, oh no, not again. I remember exactly what I said.
All right. And in that 719, that had already been determined at this point in time to have been an arson. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
So you knew that one was an arson. Now you have another fire on the same street. You arrived. Was there anything that you saw visually that led you to believe that this too could be an arson?
Not at that point in time.
All right. We had heard earlier testimony regarding the 719 Fultz fire that the Ohio State Fire Marshal's investigators were called to assist.
Yes.
Is that a common event to ask for their assistance?
It depends upon the circumstances of whether or not we would call them. On a situation where we have multiple fatalities and circumstances that aren't quite adding up, we would request them because we knew they had the resources of not a cadaver dog, but an acceleration dog,
Okay.
a dog that detects hydrocarbons.
And of course, they have a lab and
Yes.
scientists down in Reynoldsburg.
Reynoldsburg.
Okay. So when you arrived there, based on what you had observed, based on your knowledge of the prior fire and the number of victims in this case, did you make a determination whether to call the Ohio State Fire Marshal's investigators in this case?
Yes.
And did you do that?
Yes.
Okay. During the process, and we heard earlier from Brian Peterman, is he the one that then assisted from the State Fire Marshal's office in this case?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In regards to the victims in this fire, were you involved in the process of documenting where they were and who they were?
Yes.
All right. Now, we went through a series of slides with Lieutenant Horner, so I'm not going to go through that with you, but I'm going to show you one slide, slide 29 of 50CC. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
All right. And this slide has basically, it's a photograph of the victims in this case. Is that fair?
Yes.
And there's some labeling that appears to be added with victims A through G. And then I think it says the other one is family pet. Do you see that?
Yes.
All right. What was the purpose of having this labeled in this manner?
The purpose of labeling this photograph was just to show where the victims were and where they perished.
All right. Now there is one victim. How many victims were ultimately recovered?
7.
And are they all in this photograph?
No, sir.
Who is missing out of this one?
I believe the 14-year-old son was in the stairwell leading from the 3rd floor attic to the 2nd floor.
All right. And as the victims were brought out of and recovered from this room, it was documented where they were, how they were situated, and things of
Yes.
that nature. At that point in time, you did not know, and I'm just going to move to the next slide here, but you did not know their names, ages, that type of thing, or relationship for that matter. Is that fair?
No, sir.
All right. So as they were removed, did you then go through the process of trying to figure out who was in that home that had perished?
Yes, we started with the labeling A, B, C on through till we recovered all the victims.
All right. And was it pretty clear at some point in time there was how many adults and how many children there were?
Yes.
All right. And how many adults ended up being recovered?
It was 2 adults.
And were you able then to determine their names and/or ages?
Yes, with the assistance of the Summit County Medical Examiner.
All right. And were they on the scene too at some point?
One of the investigators were also on the scene to assist.
The investigator from the medical examiner's office?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so can you tell us the names of the individuals that were recovered from that fire?
I would have to refer to my report
Okay.
to accurately
All right.
give those names.
Yeah, if you want to. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And I think Mr. Gorman has handed you a copy of that report, of your report, is that correct?
This is my report.
All right. And does that refresh your recollection or help you, assist you in recollecting the names and ages of the victims?
Yes.
All right. Could you please tell us the names of the adult victims?
The adult victims. The first victim was Dennis Huggins.
And-
Second adult victim, Angela Boggs. The children,
Yes.
Wait, before you do that, what were their labels in the picture? Do you know that?
also referring to my report.
Sorry, I didn't.
That's okay.
Go back and do that.
Nope, that's right.
I have them labeled as victim A and going all the way through because the way we recovered them, it was not in any order of age, it was just how they were situated.
And that's fine. So you can just tell us in that way. Who is victim A?
Victim A, Cameron Huggins, 16-month-old male, infant.
Victim B?
Victim B, Kyle Huggins, 5-year-old male.
And I'm showing you now on the screen here. So when you said victim A, this was...
This is how they appeared
The infant.
initially.
And B was...
Kyle Huggins.
And how old was Kyle?
Kyle was 5 years old.
Okay. And then victim C?
Victim C, Daisia Huggins, 6-year-old female. She was recovered underneath her father, Dennis Huggins.
Victim D?
Victim D, Alivia Huggins, 3-year-old female. She was also recovered underneath her father, Dennis Huggins.
And victim E?
Victim E, Angela Huggins, the 38-year-old female. She's laying on her back.
And victim F?
Victim F, Jared Boggs, was the 14-year-old male. He was recovered from the stairwell leading to the second floor attic.
And so for clarification on this slide, it has F and it's pointing toward that direction. He is not actually in this picture, is that fair?
That is fair.
Okay. And victim G?
Victim G was Dennis Huggins, the 35-year-old male. He was recovered in a supine position, laying on top of the victims B, C, and D.
And then there was a family pet that was recovered also.
Yes, sir.
And in the photograph, it's just this family pet. There's no letter designation. Is that fair?
No, sir.
And that would be the location that was recovered.
Yes.
During this process, as a matter of fact, that photograph we saw that with the labeling, did you take that photograph?
Yes, sir, I did.
And where did you take that photograph from?
I was standing on the exterior of the residence on a ladder leading to the second floor.
All right, so you were like leaning in the window, so to speak?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And that photograph, was that an accurate depiction of the scene as you saw it that day, looking
Yes,
through the window?
it was.
Ultimately, after you call in the Ohio State Fire Marshal and Brian Peterman, excuse me, would then they be responsible for ultimately making that determination of whether it was an intentionally set fire or not?
Ultimately, in coordination with our office, yes.
Okay. Lieutenant Webb, I'm going to show you a series of photos now. We're going to probably go through them relatively quickly, and I'd like to know if these photographs accurately represented the scene as you saw them that day, okay? Starting with slide 4 of 50, do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
That is the residence on full 693, I believe, Fultz Avenue.
All right. And slide 5, labeled slide E.
That is the right side looking forward toward the front of the residence. That's what we consider the D side.
All right. And slide 6 or F is what?
This is a photograph documenting the address that was on the house.
All right. And then slide 7 or G?
This is a photograph of the front of the house after the debris has been removed.
All right. And the debris that would have been like on the porch and stuff?
Yes.
All right. And in this photograph here, there's a ladder.
Yes.
Is that the ladder you would have been on?
Yes, sir.
And slide 8, just a different view.
Different view of the front porch, also showing ladders.
And then slide 9.
Slide 9 is the B side also.
Okay. Slide 10.
This is a photograph of the front porch, D side, where the trash receptacles were situated.
All right. And slide 11.
Different angle, front porch, D side.
Okay, and that's the corner of A and D.
Yes.
And now slide 12 of 50.
This is a photo of the bottom of the City of Akron trash receptacle.
All right, and this looks like it, after it's been cleared, that same AD corner?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And slide 13 of 50?
This is also on the D side, looking up on to the, just past the porch, which was covered.
All right, and so this would be basically a higher view, and this is more for the record, a higher view of the AD corner.
Yes.
Slide 14?
Also a different angle of the AD corner.
And this depicts, I guess, showing the porch roof. Is that fair?
That is fair.
And based on that picture, is there extensive damage to that roof?
Yes, sir.
Slide 15 of 50?
That is also the D side, ground level.
All right. And it shows there's appears to be a window in that photograph. Is that fair?
That is fair.
And does that go to the basement?
I believe so, yes.
Slide 16 of 50?
The electrical meter
All right.
on side D.
All right. And these photographs are taken for part of the investigation to determine to help in the determination of accidental versus intentional, correct?
Yes, sir.
Slide 17.
This is further down on side D. This is the attached garage area.
All right. Slide 18.
This is on side D, a charcoal grill, which was down on the wood deck.
Which was now what?
A charcoal grill, which was on the wood deck.
Oh, wood deck, okay. And a photograph of this was taken for what purpose?
To rule out any other causes.
All right. And slide 19 is a title slide.
Yes.
Interior of 693 Fulton, second floor. And I believe Lieutenant Horner had testified about these, so I'm going to move through these. And did you ever actually go into the second floor, or just were you looking through it through the window?
Yes, I did.
You went into it?
Yes.
All right. And so this is the second floor bedroom, and we've already basically gone through all these, so I'm going to go through 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and now we're at 30. This is the stairway to the attic, and we went through some of these too, so showing you slide 31, do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
And this was the young man that you indicated?
This is the location of the 14-year-old male. This is where he was at.
And this is where the arrow was pointing?
Yes, sir.
Slide 32, that's a closer up one. I think we've seen that. Is that fair? His shirt?
Yes, sir.
And 33, what is this showing?
This is showing more of the stairwell leading from the second floor to the third floor attic.
And this would be above the young man, is that fair?
Yes, sir.
And that's just showing the entryway, correct?
That is correct.
And 34?
This is at the top in the attic,
Looking
looking down.
Okay. And we've seen 35 and 36. I'll move through those. They were already identified by Lieutenant Horner. 37 is a title page with first floor of 693 Fulton. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And then what are we looking at here?
We're looking at the shoring up of the structure, which was necessary to make entry and do the body recovery.
And 39?
The same, showing the structure as it being shored up.
And would this be the inside first floor?
Yes, sir.
Living room area?
Yes, sir.
And 40?
This is another angle from the dining room looking into the living room.
And 41?
Fireplace in the living room.
All right, and of course, photographs of the fireplace for what purpose?
To rule out any other accidental causes.
And 42?
Also, I believe this is the kitchen area.
Okay, and we're looking back toward the fireplace
Toward the
again
living
over on the
room,
right
yes.
side? Okay,
Mhm.
just for perspective. 43?
Another angle showing the shoring up process that we used to keep the structure stable.
And 44?
Showing fire damage and fire patterns.
All right. And is this of what is this, the ceiling?
This is the ceiling and floor joist for the second floor.
Okay. And 45?
This is the kitchen stove and oven.
All right, and again, the purpose of taking a picture of the stove?
To rule out any other causes.
46 is a title slide, says basement 693 Fulton, is that fair?
Yes, sir.
And slide 47,
The electrical panel.
and again, purpose of that
To rule
photo?
out any other causes.
And slide 48 of 50,
Showing the perspective of the basement area and what was contained in that area.
all right, and he's showing the washer and dryer, is that fair?
Yes, sir.
And are those also can be sources of fires too?
Yes, sir.
All right. 49,
This is the furnace and hot water tank
okay, and again,
to rule out any other causes.
all right. And slide 50 is a blank slide, fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All the photographs that I have showed you, would they be an accurate representation of the scene as you saw it and depicted? Do they depict that as you saw it that day?
Yes, they do.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Mr. Gorman?
We don't have any questions for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
Excuse. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 10 to 11. We're going to go ahead and take our morning break. I want to remind you of the admonition I've given you previously. It's important that you be fair and attentive throughout the trial. Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. This includes family, friends, or the media. You must not post or read anything about this case, whether on your cell phone or any other electronic device, and read nothing about it on the internet. Any such discussion, if discovered, could lead to a mistrial and again would severely compromise the party's right to a fair trial. Do not permit anyone to discuss it with you or in your presence, and do not form or express any opinion on this case until it's finally been submitted to you. Leave your notepads upside down on your seats, and if you'll be back in the jury room at 11:05, we'll start at that time.
All right, please.
Oh.